What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we are breaking down a combo collab mock draft of Field Yates and Mel Kiper. It is 3 rounds, so we're here to review every single pick. If you are new, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Everything helps. Blow My Face is my board. It is always changing. It's a great way to get a sneak peek into some of my videos that are going to be coming up, like interior offensive line rankings, because that's going to be coming up very, very soon. Super excited for that. But let's get right into this because this is a live reaction and we're doing this during my lunch break. We love that. But because I love you guys, I like to take my free time to be able to dedicate it towards this show because this show is, probably the most important non-physical thing to me in my entire life. So love you guys for that. You guys make it worth it. For the sake of, it was basically alternating between Mel, who had the odd picks, and Field, who had the evens. But let's not even need to talk about number one. The number one pick's Caleb Williams. We've known it. We know it. It is going to be what it's going to be. The Bears get their signal caller for the next decade, if not two. Pick 2, the Commanders go Jayden Daniels. So I do think this is going to be the pick at the end of the day. Highest floor quarterback of the ones remaining. Keeps an offense in rhythm. Really high athleticism floor. Doesn't process over the middle very well, but he fits the Cliff Kingsbury system to like hand in glove. I guess it's not the great time to talk about this since RIP OJ, but you guys get what I'm saying. It's a good fit. It's a good player. He's a guy who I like quite a bit. Pick number 3, the Patriots go Drake Maye. I don't think this is a big surprise to any of us. There's not really too much of a reason to overanalyze these picks. Drake Maye does have the highest ceiling out of the quarterbacks remaining. At pick 4, the Cardinals go Marvin Harrison Jr. He is the true number 1 in the class, and he's a true X receiver in the class. Malik Neighbors is not going to be a guaranteed X, but he is going to be a guaranteed superstar weapon. So that's why I have them right next to each other on my board. But Marvin does bring that physical presence that you don't really find with too many receivers at the next level with his skill set. At pick 5, there is that trade. So Vikings trade 3 first-round picks essentially to get up to the Chargers spot, to jump up 6 spots, which I think is a little bit crazy. But, again, this is not a commentary on this mock draft specifically. It's just more so the idea that it would cost that much to jump up it's not the most noticeable margin. I really don't think that it would take 11-23 in a first-round pick. Of course, they don't really have to worry about it in Field Yates as well as Mel Kiper. But regardless, Mel Kiper ends up selecting Minnesota Vikings pick with J.J. McCarthy. It just seems to make sense. I do believe that I have a deep down sensation that we're going to see the Patriots trade back, and we're going to see the Vikings move up for Drake Maye. And then we're going to see the Patriots, we'll see potentially J.J. McCarthy slip a little bit, maybe to the Giants pick. And we're going to see that the Patriots retool, or J.J. might slip a little bit more than we expect. But at number 6, speaking of the Giants, they go Malik Neighbors, according to Field Yates. My only issue with this is thinking, can Daniel Jones actually make Malik Neighbors into Malik Neighbors? Or is he going to turn into a so-called pumpkin? I'm worried, but, it's the best possible player available. I do think that if you do see J.J. McCarthy here at pick 6, and let's just say the Chargers are really sold on Malik Neighbors, then I don't think you should pass on J.J. McCarthy, but if you want to, you can trade back and end up getting a superstar in Brock Bowers, because there is even the possibility that Darren Waller doesn't come back. So I hate to see that, especially after this year. It's starting to look very unlikely. Pick number 7, the Titans go Joe Alt. Joe Alt's a fantastic player. It's an easy shoe-in. Let's not waste our time. It is a pick that's been going on for a very long time. Same thing with Dallas Turner to the Falcons. I do think that there is the possibility that this is Terrion Arnold. The NFL always values corner a little bit higher than what we give them credit for. Terrion Arnold's my number 3 player in the class. He had a better 10-yard split than Trent McDuffie did, even though he didn't have as good of a 40. So short range quickness, which in my opinion is a little bit more valuable than just the pure 40-yard dash. It's still definitely adequate, if not elite. And they were probably going to be targeting Devin Witherspoon if he fell, because his DB's coach is on the Atlanta Falcons coaching staff. So they're looking at that. They're looking at, if I'm not mistaken, Trent McDuffie back in the day was coached by the DC. So they're looking at a very similar prospect here in Terrion Arnold. But with that being said, you easily could be able to find a really good talent in round number 2. Dallas Turner is a phenomenal player. Bears then end up going Rome Odunze at 9. It just makes too much sense. It really does feel like these are the 2 picks the Bears should go after. However, I would not be disappointed if the Bears end up saying, hey, here at pick 9, we could easily end up moving back a good significant margin with the team that is looking for their true number 2 receiver and end up acquiring more draft capital because it's a very good draft, and then ending up getting an A.D. Mitchell or Brian Thomas and, being able to draft a lot more players to keep them on young contracts and help out the quarterback. That might be more valuable than Rome Odunze, but still, Rome Odunze is a great pick. The Jets end up selecting Troy Fautanu at pick 10. I think this is a very solid move. I personally would trade back because I think there's a lot of really good tackle guard hybrids in this class, but if you're looking for a day 1 impact, it really is Troy Fautanu or Brock Bowers. That's going to be that, if you're trying to be a little bit more risk averse on that left side of the offensive line. Troy Fautanu is a very solid, he's a very solid tackle. He's an instant starter, in my opinion. He will be coming out with the interior offensive line rankings, which should be a top 30. Yeah, I know. Other people are going to be doing top 10s, but not me. Not me. I cannot do that because there's too many good players down the board that actually could end up on rosters for me to actually say, hey, I'm going to, essentially push the value of this offensive, or basically push out these prospects from being able to be told out to the public. I just think it's a little bit, dare I say lazy to go a top 10? I don't know. But Troy Fautanu is a great player. He's going to be on both, and he's going to be a day 1 impact nonetheless. It's a good spot. Brock Bowers, I actually am not too against it nowadays because I do think, I still believe you're getting better value out of a starting quality tackle that will play guard and then tackle if need be versus a starting weapon. I'd prefer to roll my dice on a weapon later on, but this tackle class is freaking ridiculous. It's very, very good. At pick 11, we got the Chargers going JC Latham. They're messing around with his mechanics there at his pro day. My only issue with JC is his processing. He and Brandon Coleman probably are the 2 worst post-snap processors that I've seen. Just the deer in headlights look happens a little too often for me, but everything else about JC's game is phenomenal. He probably would end up being my tackle 1 if it weren't for that processing issue. I think that because of that, he might be pushed into guard for a short portion of his career until his football acumen gets a little bit faster. And, I do think he has that potential to do so. So that's why he was my tackle number 4. You can look at my top 20 tackles video that just came out very recently where I break them down in depth. But JC Latham, phenomenal player. I just don't know if he's able to start a tackle because of that potential issue. Broncos go Brock Bowers. Field Yates essentially is saying go BPA. Don't force it on a quarterback. I respect that. You might have to go through 1 year of absolute atrocity, but at the end of the day, your goal as a GM is, and as an owner, is to give your fans the best overall experience. And if it suffers for a year for you to build the best roster and get the best players, and then essentially get Carson back the next year and be able to ball out, I think it's worth it. I do. So get the best player. I still think that they end up trading back because it's a great trade back spot, but it certainly feels like if they end up sticking and picking, this is far from a bad move. And pick number 13, we got Mel Kiper going for the Las Vegas Raiders. Quinion Mitchell, I love it. AP just definitely seems like the type of guy who would love the ball hawking skills and the athleticism of Quinion Mitchell, as well as that physicality. We also have a top 17 corners video that just came out, so about a couple weeks ago, so you can go check that out as well. Review DeCambrian Mitchell. Actually, I technically have all this stuff ready, and I did not factor it into my big board, but he probably would have been corner 17 for me. He's a good player, and with some of these pro day numbers, there was a little bit of shift in there, but that's not going to cause me to put up another video because there's no reason for that. That's why we have videos like this that I can talk about it in as well. Saints end up going Olu Fashanu. I'm super happy to see that Olu's still getting that top 20 love, top 15 love. He's an excellent player. He, for me, where did Olu go? He's at 17 on my board, but that's just because of how many players I love above him. It doesn't necessarily reflect, and, you guys know that behind the scenes, I'm still working on positional value, and that's something that will be heavily factored into my 2025 grading charts. But, this is going to be my litmus test for this year is seeing the proper value for the particular role. So starting left tackle is going to have a little bit more value if like their talent is 77 overall each, like between Fashanu and Morgan. Like I might end up obviously valuing a left tackle a little bit more. So got to factor that in there because Olu will probably end up being top 10 on my board when all is said and done. But this is going to be a great pick nonetheless. Move Trevor Penning. Don't choose an inferior tackle because you want to be still correct about Trevor Penning. Have Trevor Penning try to fight for his future. Don't try to fight or don't just give Trevor Penning the keys to that left tackle spot. Pick 15, the Colts go Terrion Arnold. That's the best pick you can ever ask for. He is my number 3 player of the class, so you guys know how much I love that pick. Seahawks go Byron Murphy. I do think it's a great trade back spot, but Byron Murphy is a top 10 player on my board. He's just kind of gotten prospect fatigued by me to slip a little bit just because of the fact that I don't really think about him too often. I just think he's really damn good. A little undersized, but the talent that he has is ridiculous. I think he does have some Jalen Carter-esque to him. And, Seahawks would have basically be getting a bargain version of Jalen Carter there at 16, which I think is a W in my book. Especially with the new signing of DeForest Buckner, I do think that the demand for defensive interior did drop noticeably because there's not too many teams that are really looking for that alpha on the defensive interior. But at pick 17, the Jacksonville Jaguars go Brian Thomas. I love this pick. Obviously, I think A.D. Mitchell's a little bit better, but Brian Thomas is still a great wide receiver. He's the whole reason I ended up adding in a actual it factor / ain't factor. But, we can thank some guys for the ain't factor. I'd rather prefer to focus on the positive thing with it factor because Brian Thomas, statistically, when you actually analyze this game, there are quite a few flaws to it. I have a receiver video out. I technically have 2, so you can go check those out. But Brian Thomas, I did add in the it factor because I could still see that he was going to be successful, even though he doesn't fully add up to what I am grading him out to be. Pick number 18, the Bengals go Tali Fuaga. He could actually end up kicking to guard. I do think that the top tackles in the class of the top ones, like 3 out of the top 5 actually might end up being guards. Tali Fuaga, I have been on record as saying he could be a Hall of Fame level guard. Yeah, that's like a big buzzword that I throw out, but that is something I genuinely believe. I think he could have that ceiling as a guard because his big issues are actually mitigated significantly by moving him to guard. And that to me is very, very valuable. So I do think he could end up being that special. So I could see that. Same thing with JC Latham. Same thing with Troy Fautanu. And technically Jordan Morgan as well. But at pick 19, the Rams go Laiatu Latu, edge rusher out of UCLA. He's jumped up my board noticeably. Being able to listen to him behind the scenes talking about how he's like his mental preparation for the guys he's edge rushing against, I have a very high certainty that he has the drive to make it work. And I'm just praying to God the medicals work out. He's a fantastic player. And people think I don't like him because I have Marshawn Nealon. Technically, I had him above him. Not anymore, by the way. Oh. But, y'all know how much I love Marshawn Nealon. And to be fair, Dane Brugler has him as number 32 on his board, so it's not like it's out of the realm of possibility. Friend of the show there, Marshawn Nealon, but Laiatu Latu is a fantastic player. Someone who I've warmed up to exponentially. Field Yates selected Graham Barton for the Pittsburgh Steelers at 20. I'm not a big Graham Barton guy, hate to say it, but it's an offensive line pick. I'm never going to shame a team for going offensive line. This is a really good interior offensive line class. I'd prefer to be focusing on the pure tackles. At pick 21, we got the Dolphins going Jared Verse after 2, season-ending injuries to your top edge rushers. I don't think going after a really solid, especially high IQ in terms of run defense as well, edge rusher is a bad idea. I do think offensive line is the smarter thing to do, but a lot of my Dolphins fans have pointed out that Miami just doesn't like to go after offensive line in round number 1, like when they need to. So, of recent history at least. So, I do think Jared Verse is a likely option, especially if he is there on the board. At pick 22, Amarius Mims go to the Philadelphia Eagles. My only issue with Amarius is his foot speed and then the potential Mekhi Becton-ness of this all with a monstrous dude who has incredible potential, just cannot stay healthy. Worried about that, but his foot speed, he takes 1 step for every 2 to 3 from an edge rusher, and that's what's caused him to get out of position a lot of times. I'm not a big fan of that, but I do think Jeff Stoutland could be someone who does coach up Amarius over 2 years to end up being a superstar successor to Lane Johnson. At pick 23, we got the Chargers going Xavier Worthy. I'm not a big Xavier Worthy guy. No, Mel Kiper like Xavier. He takes him in his first rounds. I'm just not a big Xavier Worthy guy. I don't think that he is as good as Tank Dell by a big margin. And I think obviously he's faster than Tank Dell, but I think he's a worse route runner. And, to me, what made Tank Dell dangerous was his shiftiness, his route running, not his actual ability to purely separate through speed. I'm not a big Xavier Worthy guy. I do think that it does complement what the Chargers are looking for, but I'd prefer to do that in the second at the very, very earliest. At pick 24, we get the Cowboys going Tyler Guyton. Tyler Guyton's a really solid option. I just don't like basically making sure that, you have to put Tyler Smith the guard. I do think Tyler Guyton could end up being a really solid tackle. He is a top 40 player on my board, and he's just a really good player. I think it's my tackle number 6. So I'm not going to be against it. It's just you have to immediately put him there at left tackle, which he's been a right tackle this whole time. And then you essentially have to, say, hey, Tyler Smith, we drafted you as a left tackle. You're going to be a left guard for good, which you're still going to get an all-pro left guard, but you're getting someone who is inexperienced to play left tackle. That's where I have a little bit of an issue, and you can't really kick Tyler Guyton to guard, in my opinion. That's just my one issue, is that you just can't kick him into guard early, especially, with Tyler Guyton. I just don't see it. Pick 25, we got the Packers going Cooper DeJean. It is the easiest pick that they can go for. I do think there is a dark horse pick here, which is Junior Colson. We all know that the Packers like to take linebacker early, and I like Junior Colson. He's my linebacker 1. This team doesn't have very many issues, and it's a very thin linebacker class. In my opinion, very top-heavy, and this could certainly be the spot where they end up snagging a linebacker because it's just what the NFL does sometimes, especially the Green Bay Packers. Bucks go Chop Robinson, Field Yates. Obviously, you love Field Yates. Got to meet him there in Mobile, but I just don't really think the Buccaneers should be targeting DPRs, designated pass rushers at this point. And I certainly don't think that Chop Robinson, with how much room he needs to grow, would be an effective first-round pick. When you look at their selection last year, they didn't take a developmental guy. Kalijah Kancey was a day-one impact, an elite pass rusher who's a gap jumper. I loved it to death. Chop Robinson scares the living hell out of me. He has top 10 edge rusher potential, but the probability of that is so damn low that I'm really worried about it. And the Buccaneers are not a team that I'd feel very comfortable with him reaching that point. Cardinals then select Nate Wiggins. I think that he's a fantastic high IQ corner. He's also in my top 40s. Pick number 28, we get the Bills going A.D. Mitchell, as good of a pick as they could ever ask for. So pretty happy with that one. The Lions then go Darius Robinson at 29. I think our dark horse pick here is my number 16 player in the draft, Marshawn Kneeland at 29. Last year, we saw a Kansas product go to Kansas City. I think this year in Detroit, we're going to see a Michigan product. It makes kind of sense. And also, he plays a very similar role to Darius Robinson, but Darius would be a great choice. We're just basically saying the name on the back of the jersey. But to be fair, I do have Marshawn Kneeland pretty significantly higher. At pick number 30, we got the Baltimore Ravens going Kool-Aid McKinstry. I'd prefer to go offensive tackle here, but Kool-Aid McKinstry is far, far from a downgrade. So still a very, very nice addition there for Baltimore. The Niners then go Jordan Morgan, who I think is a guard, but you can use him as a tackle. He was my tackle number 11, but I do think he's probably going to be a top 3 to 5 guard on my board. That's mainly because I have full faith in a couple really good guard prospects. Then Xavier Legette goes to the Kansas City Chiefs. By the way, I've been saying Olu Fashanu wrong. It's Fashanu. Just got to give myself a little correction there mid-video. So it's Fashanu. My bad. But Xavier Legette, because I just said Legette as well. It's a Legette. Xavier Legette to the Chiefs is a fantastic pick. Then we have the Rams move up. Very excited to see what this pick is going to be. Michael Penix Jr. I do think that the Rams would probably not want to move up too significantly in round number 2 for that. I think that the Rams would want to move and get that 5th-year contract. So I don't know who would have been the one to trade back. Maybe it's Baltimore. Maybe it's Detroit, right? I don't know if Darius Robinson would, or a talent similar to him would be not there at that Rams pick. But Michael Penix Jr. goes to the Rams. I do think that's not a bad idea. It's just, you don't get that 5th-year contract and you still lose capital. That's where I get a little bit iffy. You got the Patriots then going Keon Coleman. That's a great option. New England's been looking for a true number 1 for a very long time. And, pairing him up with Drake Maye is fantastic. Also, Juju just exposed his junk to the world, so I don't know how much longer he's going to be in that locker room. I mean, just being a complete clown is not going to be very effective. Roger Rosengarten then goes to the Carolina Panthers, jeepers, Arizona Cardinals. I love Roger Rosengarten. I mean, the fact is where is he on my board? Number 60, so this is high even for me, but y'all know how much I love Roger Rosengarten. It's mainly because I love a lot of players in this class. Roger's a fantastic player, super high upside. I don't think there's the mentorship here in Arizona for me to feel comfortable with him developing properly, but I would not be against this pick. It's just I'd be a little bit more on the pessimistic side of Roger reaching his ceiling. At pick number 36, we got the Commanders going Ennis Rakestraw. They do need a corner. It's on, like, hand over heart. When I did that 7-round mock draft, my biggest regret out of all teams, like maybe it was like Seattle not getting a linebacker, but it was really the Commanders not getting a corner or like a valuable corner earlier, because I do think this team needs to get a true corner one. So Ennis Rakestraw Jr., fantastic option there for the Commanders. I'm a big Ennis Rakestraw guy. I know there's a lot of people who are not. Pick 37, the Chargers go TJ Tampa. I do think this is where they end up going, because right now he's there, but Junior Colson, their linebacking core is pretty buns. I'm not a big TJ Tampa guy. But we have the New York Giants. I can definitely tell that this is going to be a Bo Nix pick. Yep. Trade up with the Titans, and the Giants get Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix is very underrated. I was just watching Jackson Powers Johnson, and you can see where he's at on my board right now. I ended up being more and more enamored with Bo Nix the more I saw. Like, he's just a really talented quarterback that doesn't get enough respect. I think that people try to comp him to Derek Carr, and I think that's a bit of a disrespect. I would prefer to say that he might be a better version of Ryan Tannehill. At pick number 39, we got the Panthers going Ladd McConkey. Great value for him. You know, I don't think this team actually really needs to emphasize receiver as much as maybe we'd like to say. But, you know, Thielen's not going to be there forever. I could totally see Ladd McConkey, Mingo, and Deontay Johnson being a killer trio for the future. It just lacks a true number one, in my opinion, or a true X, excuse me, but you're getting great value. Pick 40, the Commanders go Kingsley Suamataia. I think that, you know, I'm not a big fan of Kingsley. I think that he needs to be a right tackle in the NFL. He's my tackle number 14, but it's an upgrade nonetheless, so at least it's a positive for the Commanders. Pick 41, we got Patrick Paul going to the Packers. You know, I think the Packers should be looking for tackle guard hybrid. I do think they're great at sniping those dudes later on, though. Like Caden Wallace, I wholeheartedly believe will be on the Packers board, because I think he's going to start out at guard early on, because he's a right tackle. He's not going to be starting at that left. I know that we're essentially trying to get a contingency plan in place for Rasheed Walker, but I trust Zach Tom to potentially kick back to left tackle where he played at Wake Forest. I'm not a Patrick Paul guy. I'll just say it as it is. I know that, you know, Mel is easily able to have his own opinion, and I know that I'm of the minority in this, but I have Patrick Paul, I think, as my offensive tackle 22 or 3. I'm not a big Patrick Paul guy. Never have been, to be fair, but I did think he got better this year. I did think he got better. It's just, you know, there's just guys who I don't really have that much faith in. Patrick Paul is one of them. The Texans then selected Mason Smith at 42. I like Mason Smith. I think he's way too inconsistent, but if there is somebody that I would trust to get the most out of their players, especially the defenders, it's going to be D'Amico Ryans. So I'm very excited for that. Hello. So I think it's a little too early for Mason Smith, but I'm still excited for the pick, right? Like, this would be a pick where it happens. I'm like, you know, let's see what they do with the other picks. I think that at the end of the day, this is someone who I'd want on the Texans roster. At pick 43, the Falcons go Malachi Corley. You know, I'm not a big Malachi Corley guy. I actually like him quite a bit. I mean, where is he at on my board? Where did I put Malachi? He's at 73. So it's a little bit later than what I'd love for the Falcons, and I do think they need to go corner. So that's why I would go that way, but Malachi Corley is still a very solid option. He's really good after the catch, and that's something is very undervalued. I mean, I might even undervalue it myself. At pick 44, the Vegas Raiders go Jackson Powers Johnson. This is a little bit later than where he is on my board, but I do have him at 37. I don't think he's the end-all, be-all, but I think that he's a very solid player nonetheless. Jackson Powers-Johnson's a very good player. He was very consistent. I just didn't actually get wowed too much by his overall play. But he does have a lot of potential. He is a guard center hybrid, and I think the Raiders would be blessed to be able to take him. Pick 45, we got the Saints going Ricky Pearsall. Ricky is a great wide receiver, and I think the Saints should definitely go after a weapon, whether it's on day 1 or day 2. So I'd be perfectly fine with this. Pick number 46. Wait, hold up. I didn't even know about this part. I know that technically, there's no Jayden Daniels connection here on this roster, but that's actually sick. I totally forgot that Pearsall played at ASU he played with Johnny Wilson too, then based on those reports, but that's pretty cool. No, I didn't even remember that. Pick 46, the Colts go Jalen Polk. I'm not a big Jalen Polk guy, but I do know a lot of people are. So again, I'm more the minority here. I do think the Colts should try to take a swing at corner, not at corner, at wide receiver. I do think they should also try to take a swing at edge rusher as well, but they did end up refortifying their line with a nice new contract extension for DeForest Buckner. Pick 47, the Titans end up going Odunze Isaac. Diza's a great player. I just think it's a little bit early. He was a little undersized, a little bit underwhelming, and just physically, he didn't test out as well as I'd really hoped for. But you traded back, at least you got some extra picks for it. Marshawn Nealon's next. Goes to Jacksonville Jaguars. I love it because he can also kick inside, and you have some amazing mentorship there. Josh Allen just got his really good deal there. So he's going to be working with Travon Walker, and you got to keep guys healthy and fresh. I think this would be just BPA selection. I'd still go after a DB, but man, it would be hard to say no to my number 16 player. At pick 49, the Bengals go Johnny Newton. Johnny Newton's awesome. He's probably going to end up re-creeping up my board as well, but this would be ridiculous value. I don't need to be the one to say it. It's just essentially, basically Johnny Newton is apparently hard to coach. He's the one who brought it up on X, so it's not even me trying to make up a BS report. It's Jason Newton who ended up saying it. We'll see what happens. I'm curious as to see why Mel is a little bit lower on him, which, to be fair, I should have done my due diligence and listened to the whole ass pod because they have a great podcast. Like, Mel Kiper does a great job. I know a lot of people think Mel is old and can't do his job anymore. And, he has very unique opinions. Is he right 100% of the time? Absolutely not. But who is, right? So I respect it. Even though I don't agree with it, I have guys who I'm much lower on that people think are amazing. And I have guys that I'm much higher on that people think suck. It's understandable. Like, that's the name of the game. As long as they're honest, which Mel has always been honest, like, that's what I strive for as well. So I got a lot of respect for that. Even though I don't agree with it, the Bengals end up stealing Jason Newton here. Pick 50, the Eagles go Max Melton. Certainly likely. If he's here at 50, I don't know if he actually gets to 50. Feisty corner, great build. Obviously he's been a cornerstone there for Rutgers, 4-year starter. Very excited to see what he's going to do in the league. He's top 32 player on my board as well. Steelers go Jalen McMillan. I've seen this a lot. I'm just not a McMillan guy. I just don't think that his value is at 51 overall. I'd be very happy with whatever options fall to the Steelers in the third. I'd be preferring to go after some extra offensive line help, an actual offensive tackle at this point, like Blake Fisher, I'd be perfectly fine with. But, we do need a wide receiver. I just don't really believe in Jalen McMillan at the same rate as other people. Panthers then go Mikey Sainristil still. He's an energy ball. He is certainly, Carolina got a lot of draft capital to move back. I prefer a true boundary corner. I don't trust Mikey just yet. He's still developing, in my opinion. Eagles get Edgerrin Cooper at 53. Obviously, phenomenal value. Don't need to be the one to tell you that. That's kind of the dream pick for the Eagles. It's Edgerrin Cooper, who could end up working perfectly in Vic Fangio on the line as well as off. Browns then go Troy Franklin. I've given him a bad rap because I was personally insulted, essentially, by how atrocious that gauntlet drill was. Showed no trust in his hands. He was going slow, couldn't stay on a straight line. That drill is coming, and he either prepared for it and wasn't good at it, or else just didn't care about it. So that's what my mental thought process was. Y'all know how much I loved Troy Franklin before that gauntlet drill. He's someone who, he blocks actually pretty well for his size. He moves well, not for his size. It's 4'4", but he's 176 pounds. He should be 4'4". He's not overly athletic in that regard, but I do love the fact that he is a really good blocker. And the Browns, I mean, you're essentially saying, hey, we're going to fortify our receiving core here, so I wouldn't be against it. Cooper Beebe then goes to the Miami Dolphins. He is actually going to be my top left guard in the class. Spoiler alert. I think that there's something that isn't overly exciting about Cooper, but he is so damn reliable. And sometimes you don't need to be flashy. You can just be reliable. And he tested out way better than what his tape really suggested. So I'm very excited to see what Cooper Beebe will do in the NFL. Cowboys then go Jonathan Brooks. It's the first running back off the board. Torn ACL. He could have ended up being like a top 40 guy. If not, the Cowboys end up getting a guy to stay in Texas and to be part of that RBBC that they have. Buccaneers then go Frazier. I'm not super high on Frazier, but actually he will be sneaking up into probably around my top 64 as well. He ended up grading out with a 70 grade. So again, spoiler on that. He's a fun player to watch. It's a lot of inconsistency though. So I'm excited to see what happens. He broke his leg. That's kind of the bigger issue. But Zach Frazier to the Buccaneers is a great fit. Green Bay Packers go Peyton Wilson. Again, I'm saying Junior Colson, but linebacker is a big position to go for the Packers. Then we got the Texans going Kamari Lassiter. He's a good player. He just tested out poorly. It's just kind of weird, but you're getting a high ceiling player with a relatively lower floor because of the fact that his 40 is so low. But, the IQ is all there. Like, it just depends. Can you play in the NFL at a 4.65 speed? I don't know. And I'm really hoping that he does. Cole Bishop then goes to the Bills. One of my favorite fits. It's there in Green Bay. Pick 61, the Lions go Javon Bullard. Javon Bullard's not one of my dudes. I know that, Mel Kiper likes him a lot. Again, we all are going to have differing opinions. To be fair, I don't think many of us love the safety class. Javon Bullard's still a talented dude, but I'm just not over the moon about him. I still think I have him top 130. We'll see about that. Where's he at on my board? I should be the one to know this one. He is 122, so yeah, top 130. So, still a good player, just not over the moon about him myself. Baltimore Ravens then go Isaiah Adams at 62. That's a big surprise, but Isaiah is a really good player. He just sucked at tackle, statistically speaking. Julian Pearl also got the short end of the stick. Statistically as well, he did not do well. But when you actually analyze the game and see what's not translatable to the NFL and what is, there's a lot more that is translatable than what's not. Isaiah Adams is a really talented guard. So I think the Ravens could actually potentially steal Isaiah Adams if they can train him away, because I actually haven't even graded him as a tackle prospect yet, because right now I'm still finishing up interior. Like, he's somebody that could end up being a really big steal. I think he's going to be a day 3 guy, but this is a good player. I love seeing the, surprise pick here, because it does happen. He's a good player. Y'all know my love for Andrew Phillips, number 9 player on my board. It's kind of weird. Like, I made the video saying I know I'm a psychopath, and because he's my corner 3, and technically that's still the case, but I didn't, because people had him as a day 3 guy, convincingly day 3 guy at that point. Mr. Schmo, y'all know how much I love my boy, had him as his cornerback 20. Now he's a 3rd rounder on Bro Schmo's board. I'm like, I can see the pressure's getting to him. But there's certain guys that, you can stick your wagon to, even though you might feel insane. This is more so a message for you than it is for me boasting myself, cause who gives a shit. But when you truly believe in a player, believe in him. There's guys that, Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy, ended up being a starting quarterback in the Super Bowl. If you ended up saying he's worth a 1st round pick back in the day, you looked like an idiot. Now you don't. So just stick to your guns, man. I mean, who cares? If you get it wrong, find out why you got it wrong and fix your mistake next time. As long as you're honest and are not caving in to what other people want from you, then people are going to respect you for that. They might not like everything you do. They might, not really side with you, but when you start learning more and more from your mistakes and make less and less mistakes, that means you're going to get more and more right. And then people will eventually get to your side. So it's a game of processing. With corner, I feel when I see it, I see it. And when I fall in love with a player, it just feels like something that will end up coming to fruition. I loved Andrew Phillips. That's one of my guys that I'll be sticking my post to. And I'm just happy to see that it happened. Dane Brugler said that it's potentially even a round 1. I don't know if Dane said it. Dane Brugler says is his favorite or one of his favorite guys, but I did see a tweet saying he could end up being a late 1st round surprise player. But the Niners getting him is great. Kansas City Chiefs and go Braden Fisk. Fantastic player. Can't really shame Braden Fisk at 64, just potential medical concerns. Carolina Panthers then pick up Chris Braswell at 55. High floor player, you're getting a good contributor there. Not going to shame it. Cardinals and go Christian Haynes. I like Christian Haynes. He's also getting a re-eval. I'm doing all the left guys first, if you can't tell. Washington Commanders, actually left guards and centers. I'm going to be going to the right guards because I already have quite a few guys in the right guard category from the tackle spot. But the Commanders end up going Roman Wilson. Roman, I gave him the short end of the stick. I just saw him run into defenders quite a bit and then not really handle that well. But he is one of those players that's kind of like if you think about it, he's a Walmart version of Ladd McConkey. And that's really good value at 67. It's someone who I've kind of felt like I've gotten the initial value wrong on. Tez Walker to the Patriots, a little too inconsistent, but at 68, this is damn good value. You can pair him back up with Drake Maye. Offensive tackle-wise, I'm a bit concerned, but, I mean, there's a certain point where you have to go and get your guy, and, you're getting Drake Maye, someone he's comfortable with. 69, the Chargers go Chris Jenkins. Excellent value. I don't need to be the one to say that. He's a great player. He's number 43 on my board right now, but as I finish up everything, he's probably going to slip a little bit. At pick 70, the Titans go Junior Colson. I mean, I think that could be their second round pick, so that's a great round. That's a great pick there in the third. Cardinals then end up selecting Mo Kamara. Mo Kamara is a top 64 player on my board. Where's he at? Yeah, he's right here. Mohamed Kamara at 53. I mean, if you can get my number 53 player at 71 and it's a position of need, you're getting great value in a position of need. Pretty self-explanatory. Jayden Hicks then goes to the Jets. I think this is a phenomenal pick. I prefer to go after Kalen Bullock, but Jayden Hicks has had some super high ceiling games as well. And he's super versatile too. I mean, I don't need to be the one to say it. You can look at that little split right there. He can play everywhere. So, I do think that this would be actually a really welcome piece to that secondaries. Technically, that second level and third. Pick number 73, the Lions go Bub Means. This is somebody I will come out and say I have not watched an all 22. I didn't think that he would be considered a day two guy. He's been one of the guys who I've seen via osmosis of watching other players, and I thought he was fun. I didn't think he was a round 3 guy, but I do like the fact that we're including some players because he tested out RAS-wise very well. I'm glad that we get to have some new names in here. It's nice. Maybe I don't agree with it, but it is still nice to see. I don't really think Bub Means should be the Lions pick, but I still like to see some diversity in the player pool. The Falcons then go Cam Hart. That's good value down the line. He is somebody who I think is in that range for me. He's crazy length. He's not really super agile, but he's a very good press corner. I do think the Falcons should try to target. If you're going to be going after someone like Cam Hart, I technically have him above Kyrie Jackson. Is that right? I have them right next to each other. But Kyrie Jackson does bring a little bit more man-to-man coverage ability and press factor that, if you're really going to want to get somebody for the day one impact, Cam Hart might not be the guy for you. At pick 75, the Bears go Kron Amagaji. He's my tackle 17, but I still love him. That's how good this tackle class is. I don't think the Bears would be doing a disservice by taking him because you're developing him under Braxton Jones. I'm perfectly fine with that. Broncos go Spencer Rattler. If you can get him at pick 76, that's going to be awesome. I've heard some rumors that he's going to be a second round pick. Don't know how true that is, but I do think he'll be a day 2 guy. If the Broncos walk away with Spencer Rattler and Brock Bowers, they're going to be getting an A+, no doubt. Vegas Raiders get a home run hitter in Jalen Wright. Going to be one of the classes that I'm not over the moon for running backs, and the mock drafts reflect that pretty heavily. So I don't think this is a bad pick at all because the Raiders do get their home run hitter. Pick 78, the Commanders go Jonah Ellis. I think he's a DPR. His run IQ is very, very low, but at 78, it's very hard to disagree with the potential of a pass rusher that he is. It's going to be a really nice addition for the Commanders. Falcons then go Ruka Roro. It's 79. Can't disagree with the value, man. And then you can get him on the interior, Dallas Turner. I mean, again, it's a team that I think should be trying to target even more corner help because I'm not, I don't know if Cam Hart's going to be the end-all, be-all for the Falcons. I have some guys who are higher than him, as you could probably see right in this range. But Rook is a fantastic player. You cannot go wrong with that. Javon Baker, another guy that I've criminally not been able to see in all 22, but someone who I like quite a bit. That's why he's not factored into my receiving rankings, but definitely would love that fit there for the Bengals. Then we got the Seahawks going Zach Zinter. At this point, that's perfectly fine. If we're going to put Zach Frazier with his broken-ass leg up there, I think Zach Zinter's a better product than him. But, to be fair, I do like Zach Frazier. This is not a Zach Frazier hates rant, but Zach Zinter is a great player. Can't hate on him at all. I think he'd be a good addition for the Seahawks. The only issue is I think Troy Fautanu was the first round pick. They went Byron Murphy in round 1 in this one. So I am for this pick because I was like, yeah, I don't know about if you get Troy and Zach, but that was another mock draft I was looking at. Pick 82, we got the Colts going Dom Pooney. I'm not a big Dominic Pooney guy. And in the 3rd round, it's okay to take swings on guys who are hybrids, but I really don't think he would factor into my top 20 tackles. I don't think he'll be in my top 30 interior offensive line. I really wanted him to be. I wanted him to be like a top 64 player on my board. I just couldn't get behind it. Pick 83 for the Panthers. They go Ben Sinnott. At this point, that's fine. That's fine. There's just, you just don't need to go after Ben Sinnott at pick 33, Mr. Chad Reuter. But really good after the catch. That's going to be something that you just basically dink the ball down to him and just let him make some space. Pick number 84, you got the Steelers going Michael Hall. At this point, you have the high-end upside of Michael Hall. He needs to really work on his consistency, though. But the high-end play is wild. So very similar to Mason Smith. Michael Hall is a good player. He would be a really nice compliment for Keanu Benton going in the future. Trey Benson goes to the Browns at 85. That's really worth it. I mean, Trey Benson, I don't know. Yeah, he's at 49 on my board, so obviously going to be a fan of that one. Newman goes to the Texans at 86. Solid high floor DB, just not very athletic, and I think that he's like probably around like my 150 to 200 range. I just don't think his run processing is that good. He takes a little while to process what's going on in the play. And when you don't have the range, that's what really gets to me. Pick 87, the Cowboys go Cedric Gray. He's done a great job for himself over the offseason, especially during the Senior Bowl of being able to boost his stock. The Cowboys getting him at 87 is not a bad move. Pick 88, the Packers go Keelan Bullock. My safety one of the class. Super rangy, and he works really well with Xavier McKinney. I love that. Pick number 89, the Buccaneers go Elijah Jones. Another player that, I personally haven't gotten a full grade on from his all-22, but someone who I actually really like there at the Senior Bowl. Pick 90, you got the Cardinals going Dwayne Carter. Might as well help out the defense interior. Did not test out too well, but his bull rush definitely has popped off. Statistically, he's done well as well. Packers then go Brennan Jackson. Hey, friend of the show, obviously. Brennan's been on the show a couple times. Love him to death. Great guy. Got to say hi to him there in the Senior Bowl. Unfortunately, I think he tweaked his ankle. I don't really think that, I think we're all pretty damn sure Brennan's not going round 3. But he's a great person, going to be a great addition to the locker room. I think he's getting married or just got married, so shout out to him and his beautiful girlfriend slash fiance slash wife. They're an awesome group of people. But, I would love to see some love for Brennan Jackson. But, he is someone who really works on his craft. He's come on the show and he's talked about it a lot. I love it for him. I don't really think that he is going to be, I think he's a day 3 guy. But, the fact is, if he ends up proving me wrong, that would make me happier than anything in the world. Because I think I love to see him get his money, and I love to see him kick some fucking ass. So, very excited to see his name pop up here. Pick 92, we got the Buccaneers going Marshawn Lloyd. If he fixes his fumbles, this dude's the RB1 of the class. Pick number 93, we got the Ravens going Cam Kinchins. They're basically getting BPA. The dude just was slow, but his flashes are elite. He still could be a top 32 player when all is said and done. Just needs to work on, apparently getting faster. But at pick number 94, the Niners go Jared Wiley. Jared Wiley is a fantastic tight end. It's good to start taking swings on tight ends because Cam Latu doesn't feel like the guy that they were trying to hope and get. Pick number 95, the Chiefs go Blake Fisher. He's right there in the middle of your screen at 42 on my board. You know how much I would love that. 96, the Jaguars go Christian Jones. I'm not a big Christian Jones guy. I was a big Christian Jones guy until I started diving deeper and deeper and deeper. And I ended up with him being more of a late day 3 guy for me, but can't shame a team for going O-line. Pick 97, the Bengals go Blake Corum. He's a very solid running back. Just not awe-inspiring. So the Bengals could certainly add him to the mix there with Chase Brown. Pick 98, we got the Steelers going Brandon Coleman. Brandon Coleman, I just graded. I think that he is the lowest IQ out of any tackle I probably studied in terms of his actual processing of the game, processing in space. But his pass blocking ability is awesome, and I think he needs 2 years under an experienced veteran. So I really do think Brandon Coleman can prove me wrong over time. but he's essentially the worst version of, I don't think he can block remotely as close as well as JC Latham in the run game, but, he essentially is that, but day 3 version, the left tackle version of JC Latham. But again, significantly worse. Brandon Coleman, though, love to see the shout out. He does have some high-end pass blocking upside. Pick number 99, the Rams go Brandon Dorless. He's a fun player to watch. It's very tough to project where he's going to go. And at pick 100, I think there's 101 as well. Nope. Pick 100, the Field Yates. The Washington Commanders, via Field Yates, select Jatavian Sanders. So that's fun. I do think that, at that point, that's totally worth the pick. Commanders have been trying to upgrade that tight end position for a while, too, and have been needing to. So this is perfectly fine. That's going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching. Shout out to Field as well as Mel. Both of those guys obviously welcome on the show at any time. Obviously inspirations for how far we've been able to get. So love them. Honestly, a very fun mock to see some cool names in there as well. Thank you so much for watching. Love y'all. See you on the far side.